Hi everyone, David Aragona and Craig Milkowski are taking a look at one of the stakes events on Saturday at Keeneland. Race 7 is the Grade 3 Giants Causeway, going 5.5 furlongs on the turf for fillies and mares. Craig, it seems like each year this race draws a large field and no different this year. 12 runners signed on in the main body of the field. There is one also eligible entrant who would be trying turf for the first time if she got into the race. But it does seem like it's a fairly wide open affair. I think the morning line favorite is pegged at 7-2, so fun race to handicap.
It is, like you said, every year it seems to turn up this way. And not only is it a big field, I think contention runs pretty deep.
Yeah, Elm Drive is that slight favorite on the morning line at 7-2. I would also expect the number 8, Roses for Deborah, to take plenty of money. She is the narrow second choice on the line, a horse who won plenty of sprints in this division against Stakes Company last year. So we'll see if she's able to come back off the layoff with a big effort starting her 2024 campaign. To get a sense of where some of these horses might be placed through the early stages of this race, let's take a look at the Timeform US pace projector for this Giants Causeway. And for a large field, Craig, maybe it's somewhat surprising there's no fast-paced flag, but I know the threshold is a little higher for that fast pace to show up in a turf sprint, just given that these races don't typically fall apart the way that longer turf events might. And I don't think there's much doubt about who is expected to be on the front end. That is the number 5, BG Warrior. She is pretty fast from the blocks.
Yeah, she is very fast, and a lot of her success has come on synthetic tracks, but she has shown the same high quality speed at times on turf and run well on the surface. So I would be surprised if she's not in front early.
Her main pace rival is probably the number 9, Kissed by Fire, who has shown a lot of speed racing out in California. We'll see how that translates to the 5.5 furlong distance at Keeneland. If the race does come apart, note that the number 2, Bling, does have that LP flag over her chiclet, indicating that she has the highest Timeform US late pace rating in this field. Well, let's go through this group in post-position order, beginning with the number 1, Play the Music. And Craig, she's really gotten her act together in the past few starts. She's won 3 of her last 5, 3 of her last 4 turf races, including now 2 in a row coming into this, closed into a moderate pace 2 back at Gulfstream Park, and then earned a stakes victory last time at Tampa Bay Downs, winning by 2.5 lengths, which is a decisive margin going the 5 furlong distance. Though it should be noted that a horse did lose her rider in the stretch of that race, and it actually was the favorite who looked like she was making a winning move at the time. So not sure that Play the Music would have won that race, or the margin would have been just as decisive as it was if not for that incident.
Yeah, she's been in excellent form, as we can see looking at her PPs, winning 3 of her last 5, and a couple of those are one loss on the synthetic and one at Gulfstream Park. I was impressed when she was able to win at Gulfstream. Not really the best running style for her there, but at 7.5, it's a little better than the sprint distance. I wonder if this is just a little bit tougher race, and the speed figures seem to indicate that she might have to take a step forward.
Yeah, definitely a tougher spot than last time. The number 2 is Bling, and we'll take a look at her last victory, which was achieved going this 5.5 furlong distance over the Keeneland course. This was back in October of last year, and she got the job done against Allowance Company, making a big late run to get up to catch the fleet-footed Sassy Nature on this day. Since this race, Craig, I thought she ran pretty well in the Valley View, going a mile maybe a touch far for her. She made the lead in mid-stretch and was unable to hold off the very good surge capacity that day. And then she closed out her campaign with a decent closing effort, just missing over the synthetic. Now she's coming back off a layoff for trainer Vicky Oliver.
I think the layoff is the big question with her because even though she's had some success routing, she's also done very well in sprints, particularly at this 5.5 furlong distance. I think she's dangerous in here if she gets some pace. She should get a good ground saving ride from John Velasquez. And I'm pretty sure there is going to be pace with BG Warrior. It just remains to be seen how much pressure she's going to face on the front.
Yeah, I think she's run some of her best efforts sprinting on the turf. I look back at that race that she ran in the Music City at Kentucky Downs 4 back when she reared up at the start, was off about 3 or 4 lengths behind the leaders that day, and made up a ton of ground into a pace where all of the pace figures in Timeform US are color-coded in blue. The number 3 is Jill Jitterbug, and she's going to be a long shot in this race. She's tried the turf a couple of times, ran okay the last time that she attempted these conditions, going 5.5 furlongs on the grass in November at Churchill Downs, closing behind Redefined, who is a good high-level allowance stakes quality horse. She's now coming back off a layoff for some connections who had success with a horse named Zumbi, who is actually her full brother at a big price at Keeneland last fall, but she'd have to improve quite a bit.
She would. Her speed figures are a bit lacking in here, and she looks like one who likes to come from off the pace, and I think there's better closing alternatives.
Yeah, we're fans of this pedigree, but a little tough to make a case for Jill Jitterbug in this spot. The number 4 is Oeuvre, and she is a horse who definitely knows how to get to the wire first. She has been the winner in 15 of 26 career starts. 6 of those wins have come on the turf, and she's a proficient turf sprinter. We have seen her be successful going these shorter distances, primarily at fairgrounds, but she's tried to bring her game to Keeneland a couple of times in the past. She did win here going a mile back in October of last year. More recently, she tried sprinting on the turf too back in the Mardi Gras, was no match for Overcharge that day, but Overcharge might be the best turf sprinter of any gender in the country right now. And then last time they tried to stretch out to a mile and a 16th. I just think that's a little far for her, Craig, and this turn back should be better.
Yes, she's versatile. We've seen her win on dirt. We've seen her going long. But at the end of the day, I think turf sprinting is really what she's best at. A lot of those dirt wins have come over lesser competition against Illinois bred. So she fits in this race. She's going to need to work out a trip as she generally comes from off the pace. I'm not sure if she's good enough to win a race like this, but I think she's going to be finishing up pretty strong.
The number 5 is BG Warrior, and she is a horse who has plenty of speed figure power coming into this race. She's earned some of the fastest numbers in this field on both turf and synthetic more recently. She was campaigned at Turfway Park over their synthetic course through the wintertime and put up some big performances, including 2 back when she earned that 122 Timeform US speed figure, just running a field off its feet, opening up early, taking a large margin into the stretch and being able to hold on late. She has not been as successful opening up on fields on the turf, but she did run a big number at Kentucky Downs last year using those kinds of tactics. And based on the pace projector, Craig, she might be quicker than these in the early stages.
That's what I'm wondering, if she will be able to open up against a field like this. She tried a 5.5 furlong stakes at Keeneland, as we see last year, was pressed through a very fast opening quarter. Didn't have a ton left, but I don't think she's going to face the same kind of pressure this time. And I would be surprised if she's not a couple lengths in front with a furlong to go. Now, whether she can hang on, that's a little bit of a different story. Time will tell, but I think she's dangerous with all the speed that she has.
The number 6 is Secret Money. I was talking about that Music City States a little earlier, where Bling was a very good third. Secret Money was the winner that day, where she got a very good trip. That was 4 starts back in her past performances. She finished off the board in her next couple of starts to close out her 2023 campaign, came back off the layoff last time at Gulfstream in the Captiva Island, and was trying to close from towards the back of the pack. That's always going to be a tough task, going the 5 furlongs at Gulfstream Park, Craig. She was finishing decently that day, and maybe she can use that race as a stepping stone.
Yeah, I would expect her to take a step forward. It's just, will that step forward be big enough? As you say, her style really not suited to the Gulfstream Park turf course, particularly at 5 furlongs. She's had success routing. I wonder if she wants a little longer, and if we can look for her later in the year as the distances stretch out for her.
The number 7 is Port Townsen, who is a lightly raced 4-year-old trying stakes company for the first time. She's 2 for 2 on the turf, so she's really done nothing wrong on this surface. Was an impressive maiden winner back in December at Fairgrounds, winning off by 4 lengths, earning a flashy 117 Timeform US speed figure. That number, it's gotten some validation since then, but obviously Port Townsen did come back to regress in her next start down to a 101. She's going to have to do a lot better than her most recent start if she's going to be competitive with this field.
Yeah, as the one who made that speed figure, it was certainly a tough one, and one that kind of had some question marks around it. So I'll be keeping an eye out. If she's going off at a big price, though, I wouldn't mind putting a few dollars on her to see if it is legitimate.
The number 8 is Roses for Deborah, and we'll take a look at her last victory in the Smart and Fancy Stakes at Saratoga last August. And if she gets back into this kind of form, Craig, I do view her as the horse to beat in this race because she just put in these reliable late runs, sometimes even into slow paces when she was in top form through the spring and summer last year racing in New York. And you can easily make some excuses for her last couple of efforts. She caught that boggy turf course on Pennsylvania Derby Day in the Turf Monster. You can see in the Timeform USPPs a track condition rating of 1 next to the yielding designation. So that was as slow a turf course as you're going to see. And then last time out, she tried males in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint, some of the best turf sprinters out there, and she might have just been a little bit too close to what was not his pace that day.
Yeah, definitely. I think has a big major excuses in her last two, and I do think she's the horse to beat with any improvement this year. As a 5-year-old mare, I could see her running better speed figures than we even saw from her best races, and I actually think she'll probably wind up going off the favorite in this race.
The number 9 is Kissed by Fire, and she is that speedy California invader who tends to break very sharply from the gate. She figures to be vying for the front end with BG Warrior early. We'll see if she is ultimately as fast as that one. She's coming out of a stakes attempt in the Los Cienegos out in Southern California, where she finished behind today's rival Elm Drive. Took them into the top of the stretch, led them until mid-stretch, and just couldn't quite see out the distance. Turning back to 5.5 furlongs might work for her, but doing so in the same race as BG Warrior could be a tall order.
I think that's a problem. The pace figures indicate that BG Warrior is clearly quicker. We don't really see any success in Kiss by Fire's PPs where she's not able to make the lead. Now, granted, that hasn't really happened very often, but just seems like she's up against it from a pace scenario.
The number 10 is Breeze Easy. She's going to be a big price in this race going out for Wayne Catalano. Has changed barns a couple of times over her past several starts. She would just need to run the best effort that we've ever seen from her to even hit the board here, Craig.
Yeah, hard to see it for me. Maybe things get crazy on the front and she's running late, but she's not for me.
Now, the horse pegged as the morning line favorite is the number 11, Elm Drive. We'll take a look at her most recent start in that Los Cienegos that I just mentioned. Kissed by Fire is also coming out of, but highlighted here is Elm Drive, who is coming through between horses to just miss to Honey Pants, who upset this field. I thought this was a good effort for her, Craig. She's now tried sprinting on the turf several times. All of them have been this downhill 6.5 furlongs at Santa Anita, and she's just a couple of heads away from being undefeated going that distance at Santa Anita. So she definitely handles going a little shorter on the turf, but now turning all the way back to 5.5 furlongs, it's going to be interesting to see what kind of forward position she can get because she does prefer to be that stalking mid-pack type, and she's going to have to avoid losing ground from this wide draw.
And yeah, the post is a problem, and especially when you consider the turn back. The 6.5 down the hill to 5.5 in Keeneland is quite the major difference in my opinion. And I don't know if she'll be the favorite, but she will take some money, and I just see her as a major underlay in this spot.
And on the outside of the main body of the field is the number 12, Love Reigns. We'll take a look at her most recent victory, which came during the spring meet at Keeneland last year when she beat fellow 3-year-old fillies in the Limestone Stakes. And Joel Rosario really has to work out a clever trip here because he got stopped in upper stretch, angles over to the inside behind the leader, then has to angle out, and he's just weaving through traffic to ultimately get Love Reigns to the wire first. This was a pretty big effort, and you've got to respect that this filly is able to make those difficult maneuvers in the stretch to actually get up for a victory. Now, didn't have an ideal close to the year after this. Reportedly wasn't training well enough to go to Royal Ascot, which had been the original plan with her. Brought back during the summer in the Galway Stakes at Saratoga. Failed to show up as the even money favorite that day. Now she's coming back off another long layoff, Craig. So there are definitely some questions surrounding Love Reigns, but on her best day, she could be a contender in here.
She could be. I'm a little concerned that when we see at Keeneland came just about a year ago. She's only had one race in the interim. When I checked her work tab, I expected to see a long, steady stream of works, and instead I only saw 3. So for me, not the most encouraging sign, but it is Wesley Ward. He does point for this Keeneland meet, and we've seen him pull this off before. So I won't be shocked if she wins, but she's not going to be my pick.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that Love Reigns has had more training than just the 3 workouts that we see, especially since the first one she logged was a 47 gate drill. So maybe she was doing some work on a farm before coming to the racetrack. But Wesley Ward, I mean, he does do this. He can bring horses back off long layoffs and have success in stakes events. Sometimes he just runs these horses sparingly. We'll take a look at this DRF formulator fact. Coming off layoffs of 180 days or more in sprint stakes races, he's a pretty remarkable 11 for 25. That's a 44% win rate with a $3.47 ROI. And a large portion of the sample is made up of horses who competed in turf sprints. This is all sprint races, but he does well in turf races as well. So Love Reigns, just based on this stat, I think she's one that you do have to take seriously in this race. And then closing out the field on the outside is High Class. We're not going to discuss her. She's on the also eligible list. So let's throw up our picks for this Giants Causeway, Craig, and going in slightly different directions. You're going to try to wire this field with BG Warrior.
I am. I think she's a really quick filly. I think the price is going to be right. I fully expect her to be double-digit odds. And this is actually a case where I may bet 2 horses because if she's not able to see out the 5.5 furlongs, I really like Bling as well, who's your selection, and I have her tapped second.
Yeah, I think you're definitely going to get a price on BG Warrior, and she does have those competitive speed figures coming in. I saw this as a race that might fall apart a little bit more, so I did put the number 2 Bling on top. She is going to need a little bit of pace help, but she feels like one to me that could actually drift up a little bit from that 6-1 morning line. And I just like all of her turf sprint efforts, and I think that she fits pretty well in this field as she makes her first start as a 4-year-old. I also do have some interest in the number 12 Love Reigns, who we just talked about, but Bling drew a much better post position than that rival in this Giants Causeway on Saturday at Keeneland. Good luck if you're playing the races this weekend.